All right, so this next story has really stuck in my craw. I got a lot of ranting to do here, so just be prepared.
Okay.
So a new ranking from Consumer Reports of active driving assistance systems places GM's Super Cruise in the #1 spot, with Tesla's Autopilot a distant second.
What?
Yeah. Consumer Reports drove a Cadillac CT6 with Super Cruise, along with the Tesla Model Y with Autopilot, and 15 other cars, and it ranked them on both private and public roads, using dozens of measures, including steering, controlling speed, ease of use, and keeping the driver safe and engaged. And here are the findings. So here's the top 8.
But wait a minute. This feels like deja vu. Didn't we report on Consumer Reports finding the same results like 2 years ago?
Yep, you're not imagining anything. We did report on an eerily similar test from Consumer Reports 2 years ago, where Consumer Reports also declared that Super Cruise beat Autopilot. Quote, even after 2 years, Cadillac Super Cruise remained our top-rated system because when turned on, it uses direct driver monitoring to warn drivers that appear to have stopped paying attention to the road. You might have heard of Tesla's active driving assistance suite, known as Autopilot, that can control the car's steering and speed to assist the driver. What you might not know, however, is that most mainstream automakers now offer similar systems on their cars.
Wait a minute, though. Most of the cars that they tested don't have lane keeping systems. They only have systems that prevent the car from accidentally leaving the lane, but you can't like put it into autopilot.
Yeah, I really want to make sure people understand this distinction. A car that warns you when it's leaving a lane is not the same as a car that keeps you centered on a lane.
Right, without you having to worry about it.
Right, and so I want to just imagine if you took a road trip in a car that wasn't an autopilot car, a car that just has lane warning.
Right.
So this is what it would feel like. All right, I've put it into lane warning. Let's just relax a little bit here and...
Whoa!
Whoa! Whoa!
Gee,
whoa!
whoa! And now, I understand that Super Cruise does have lane keeping, but to say that other manufacturers have similar systems is kind of a misnomer at best.
Yeah.
And
It's misleading. It's misleading the public.
to be like, oh, well, I heard the autopilot was good. In fact, maybe I tried autopilot. So that's great. I'll get some other car. It has lane leaving warning assist.
Same thing.
Same thing. I heard that it's similar. Not true at all. So, okay, let's take a look at some of their actual results.
Right. So they did different categories. This one is capabilities and performance. And so as you can see, Tesla ranked #1.
No, but it's #2. So that graph, you must have made this graph. This graph must have not come from Consumer Reports.
Oh, well, this is just one of the things they ranked.
Oh, okay.
And then they added up the
So
score.
capabilities and performance.
It got a 9 out of 10.
Right. Isn't that important? Why would
I would say that's probably the most important.
Okay,
but
so-
that's not all they used to rank it.
Okay.
So Consumer Reports said even with new systems from many different automakers, Super Cruise still comes out on top due to the infrared camera ensuring the driver's eyes are looking toward the road. That's Kelly Funkhauser, Consumer Reports head of connected and automated vehicle testing.
So Consumer Reports is coming out saying Super Cruise is better because it makes sure that your eyes are on the road, as opposed to how well it drives in autopilot or lane assist featuring.
Yeah, they say the evidence is clear. If a car makes it easier for people to take their attention off the road, they're going to do so with potentially deadly consequences. And that's William Wallace, manager of safety policy for Consumer Reports. It's critical for active driving assistance systems to come with safety features that actually verify drivers are paying attention and are ready to take action at all times. Otherwise, these system safety risks could end up outweighing their benefits. And so this is their ranking of cars that keep the driver engaged. And as you can see, they gave Super Cruise 7 out of 10, and they gave Tesla 3 out of 10.
But like they gave most cars 3 or 4 out of 10.
Yeah, my question here is with Tesla, you can't stop being engaged for more than like 10 seconds or else the car bumps you out of autopilot or warns you. So what were they looking for?
Well, they were looking for a camera to look at you.
Okay.
That's what they wanted. They wanted to have a camera trained on you. But let me just ask. Keeping the driver engaged. I totally understand camera looking at you, making sure you're engaged, and as soon as you start looking around, it goes, hey, get back to driving. I understand that, but one other point.
Yeah.
Driver fatigue.
Yes.
Keeping the driver engaged, driver fatigue is a huge problem, especially on longer drives. We've done cross-country road trips where we made 800 miles in one day.
Right.
And we, at the end of the day, we were not zonked.
Right.
Like, you've done road trips before in your life where you needed to get from point A to point B and they were hundreds of miles apart. And by the end of that trip, you were exhausted because you had to be driving the entire time and your eyes had to be focused on the road the whole time and you had to go into autopilot and your brain had to be thinking and chugging the whole time. When you're in autopilot, you do not have that experience whatsoever.
And also, your eyes actually get to look at other things besides right in front of the car, which I think Super Cruise would count as being not engaged.
Right. And this could lead to driver fatigue, which could lead to someone falling asleep or becoming drowsy. Now, Super Cruise might be able to detect that and say, you are drowsy. We're going to kick you out of Super Cruise. You need to go take a nap. Great. But you could just avoid all of that by having a system that won't fatigue the driver as much.
Now, here's the next ranking, ease of use. And they gave Tesla Autopilot 7 out of 10, and they gave Super Cruise 3 out of 10. And they said about Super Cruise, we don't like that Cadillac's system goes into a standby mode as soon as the driver applies additional steering input, which also can dissuade the driver from taking over if needed. We also found that Cadillac's system is finicky about re-engaging, even when the driver is well within the lane lines. So let me get this straight. Consumer Reports found that the ease of use and the capabilities and performance were far better in the Tesla, yet ended up giving GM the number one spot. So what I think Consumer Reports has done is they basically added a bunch of metrics so that they could get more points for GM. And one of them here is clear when safe to use, which they gave 8 points to GM and 2 points to Tesla. Clear when safe to use?
Is that really tell you a lot about the capability of the system?
I don't even know what they're talking about.
Right.
Then there's unresponsive driver, where they give 9 points to Cadillac and only 6 points to Tesla. And I want to ask, what does this mean, unresponsive driver?
So this is where you're in autopilot or Super Cruise and you become unconscious. You either fall asleep or you've had some kind of a medical emergency, which takes, you're unconscious, basically. Unresponsive. What is the car going to do? And so we've done this test with Tesla. Basically, the car is going to warn you a lot, very loudly. Then it is going to slowly and safely come to a stop with its hazard lights on. Cadillac Super Cruise is going to do the same thing, and then it's going to call OnStar. So yeah, there's one extra thing that it does. It calls OnStar. But how about when Tesla can drive you to a hospital? Or what if Tesla could have an on-screen doctor? Of course, they don't have that on there now, but there is the capability to add a lot of these different functions, whereas Super Cruise, OnStar is about as good as it's ever going to get.
And yeah, I just don't think that that's worth an extra 3 points. Both cars took care of an unresponsive driver by keeping them safe. And in a couple months, I think this article is going to be completely outdated because Super Cruise won't be able to upgrade, but Tesla will. And so you'll have this article floating around that people are like, oh, I'm going to use this to judge whether I should buy a car, and it'll be outdated.
It's outdated even now. As soon as it came out, it was outdated because they had been doing these tests months ago. So, you can't test Tesla's autopilot months ago because they come out with updates constantly. And yeah, if you look at the results here, Cadillac with 69 points and Tesla with only 57. Well, if you're not weighing the points, if you're taking the performance and comparing that directly with whether it's safe to engage, those are two completely different things. And also, Tesla tells you when it's safe to engage because there's a little steering wheel that pops up.
I really hate the fact that they haven't weighed the important things like performance, and then they just added up a bunch of numbers, and it's a bunch of gobbledygook that doesn't mean anything. And you'd expect more of Consumer Reports. They're used to ranking things like refrigerators and washing machines. You'd think they would know how to do this.
Well, and that kind of brings me back. Like, if they were doing a toaster and they were ranking toasters, would they rank a toaster that couldn't toast bread very effectively? But lets you know when it's toasting. And in the case of an emergency, it stops toasting and calls your mom. Like, would that put it in a better stead as a toaster that does more, that toasts the bread, has technology that'll toast the bread perfectly for you? Because what is the point of having autopilot? What is the point of having Super Cruise? Is it, it's very safe all the time, and that's all we care about? Or is it the performance, which is actually the safety part? If autopilot just kicks out at some point and doesn't warn me, that is a lot less safe than if it is constantly in and I can rely on it for miles and miles and miles.
I just don't like that Consumer Reports didn't use the actual data that's coming from these cars. Tesla has data to prove that they are far safer than any other system.
Right. To fearmonger and say, well, if people aren't paying attention, it could be very dangerous. Except that the data doesn't show it.
Right.
It shows that if you're on autopilot, Tesla autopilot, you are 6 times safer than any other driver on the road driving with your hands and your eyeballs. So that's where Consumer Reports isn't using helpful data that is out there. They could at least talk about it. They could say, we're worried that people aren't going to be paying attention, but the data has shown that Tesla is safer when in autopilot.
And you know what's going to happen is coming up at Thanksgiving or some other time, your uncle is going to say, well, I read in Consumer Reports that your wonderful Tesla didn't score so well. Hey everybody, thanks so much for watching Now You Know Clips.
You can watch full episodes of Tesla Time News on Mondays and in-depths on Fridays. Just click the link down below to head over to the Now You Know channel.